Bad things are happening in gaming. Shocking. I know.
It is a time of pivots. We're seeing Twitch, Halo, Payday 3, and Destiny all showcasing what their future looks like. For Twitch,
I don't think Destiny has a future at this point, but okay.
it's getting another 5% revenue cut from their 1 million streamers. For Halo, it's no more seasons for Infinite, but keeping up the content and doing a few fairly interesting things, all while teasing new games. Payday 3's developers are doubling down on the game that they have, though. They're trying to work out how to salvage the situation. They're forming a strike team to address player concerns directly and urgently. Over in the land of Destiny, though, they are keen to show players that things are not changing for the final shape, even as they have just lost their game director. Quite a lot of interesting things today. First, a quick little dose of reality.
All of that sounds absolutely horrible if you're a fan of those games and you like playing them, honestly. Wow.
And what I'm trying to do about it in my capacity as essentially leading this whole shindig. Essentially, we do need your support now more than ever, and the reason why is ad rates on YouTube have dropped significantly. We first felt this hard last summer, and essentially despite doing more work, we get a lot less per amount of work that we do. Kind of frustrating. As soon as we found our stride, the YouTube app just went bleh. So thanks, economy, but that's only a problem if we're not smart, and of course we're trying to be. So we've established our own platform, bellular.ghost.io, where you can access videos early before they're published on YouTube, where you can get our detailed research reports and our daily newsletter loading screen. Your support means the world to us. It directly supports payroll and upgrades to the show.
Okay.
I have no ambitions to be doing Lambos or bullshit. No, this is going into the bread and butter of making a great show for you guys to enjoy. So if you'd like...
Now, I don't know about that. Ask Mr. Beast and he's gonna tell you that, yeah, driving a Lambo into something especially is a probably pretty good way to make a decent show. And it is. Man, I like when someone drives a Lambo into something and something happens. It's fun.
Like to support us, the link is down below. Thank you to everybody who has chipped in so far. You guys are truly making a difference. And with that said, let's get into our stories. And of course, we gotta start it off with Twitch. So recently we heard that Twitch is not profitable, which is one of the driving reasons behind the layoff wave.
Recently, or has that been an ongoing thing for 5 years in the open now? Or at least since the moment that Amazon acquired Twitch?
That they just did. So they've done that, but now they're working out what else they can do to improve their financial situation. So we'll start with the big things, then we'll work our way down. Number one, they've immediately removed the cap on revenue. Yeah, so previously anybody who was making over $100,000 would switch to only making a 50% cut. That's actually back to 70-30 now. And you might think, hang on a second, that's very counterproductive. That is lessening Twitch's revenue. That seems like a...
No, it's not. I hope that no one's thinking that, but if you did, you should think a lot harder because it's pretty obvious.
A terrible way of making yourself more, more profitable. What it is, though, is them trying to win a medium to long-term game, and it's pretty simple. Kick is giving people a better percentage. Of course, a lot of that's because Kick, I mean, look, if you go to Kick, what's always one of the number one things being streamed? Gambling and, the ownership structure between Kick and I think it's called, what was it, Strike? I've forgotten the name of it, the crypto gambling thing. Yeah, they basically know that they need to be more competitive, so that's one thing that they're doing, and that'll be super impactful for some of those big names that themselves will drive a disproportionate amount of revenue. Now,
I don't know if they need to be more competitive. I mean, Kick's doing fine and whatnot, but I don't really believe that Twitch is looking at Kick and getting scared that, oh my god, they're gonna overtake us at any moment now. Don't feel like that's happening. It could happen, and given time, Kick is gonna become a bigger problem. I kind of don't feel like it's currently a problem. With all the things that Kick streamers are also doing, getting in trouble and doing things like that, I would not be surprised that a lot of people at Twitch are looking at it and saying, yeah, they're just going to destroy themselves after a year if they continue doing this, so how about we just ignore them for now, and if things only get worse, noticeably worse, and then we can do something about it. I really don't think that Twitch is currently looking at Kick as like this huge monolith of a competition with everything.
There's also some changes for smaller creators. They've got a 2-tier Partner Plus program, basically. Getting to 100 points in the program gets you a 60-40 split. Getting to 300 gets you a 70-30 split. But that's now also open to affiliate streamers as well, so even more people can earn.
Oh boy, I can't wait until I find out what kind of miracle and soul selling do I need to do to get these 100 and 300 points. Oh man, it's gonna be epic. I didn't like my soul anyway, so Twitch can have it. But yeah, this is probably gonna have so many strings and things that promote Twitch attached to it. It's gonna be crazy. Or maybe it's gonna be super easy and this is like just a PR move. Because if you're a small streamer, Twitch doesn't care about you. Absolutely not in the slightest. Are you kidding me? Twitch could not care less about your existence as a general concept even. So, you know, either this is soul selling or this is like, no one cares. But yeah, the 50-50 split on 100k revenue is also a simple thing. People are gonna make the easy choice. If there's someone on Twitch and they're streaming, I don't know to how many people, it doesn't even matter. But if they're hitting that 100k revenue cap, and they think that they can go to kick stream to, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of their previous audience, and get more revenue, considering they're not really growing on Twitch that much, it's a reasonable decision to actually go to kick and try that. So they're probably just trying to avoid things like that, because Twitch doesn't care that much about the biggest players, especially now, but they still kind of care to not lose them all in an instant and give more favorable, not outcomes, but give them more, give a lot of people who could be big more favorable options, so they consider Twitch more if they want to go to Twitch. So yeah.
A few bucks from streaming. Dan Clancy, their CEO, said that this means that 3 times as many streamers will have access to premium net revenue share rates. To put it simply, they're reducing the financial incentive to go to Kick, and then they are, well, allowing more people to earn money. Their hope, therefore, is that that gets more people into that kind of number go up cycle, and they're essentially just placing a bet on that growth. And so far, all of this is really good for creators. And now we get to the next thing. This is super impactful, and for some reason it was initially reported wrong by loads of places. We have the more up-to-date version here. Prime subs are changing, and they're changing in a fairly big way. Now, the way that that works is Amazon Prime gives you a monthly subscription token to use. Basically, that's Amazon paying for your sub to a channel on Twitch, with Twitch being their subsidiary company. Now, the thing is, Twitch don't actually publish how many of their total subs are generated from Prime subs. However, there was an analysis done in 2021 showing that this could be between 40 and 50%.
Yeah. I heard not too long ago, now this wasn't analysis or anything like this, I think a big streamer actually just showed their split of Prime subs versus normal subs, if they can show it. But I heard something like 60% is Prime. And that seems actually legit, that seems reasonable in my opinion, because, well, a lot of people use Amazon, obviously. So why wouldn't they do the Prime subbing? So it is a ridiculously high percent
of subs on the Twitch platform. I mean, that makes sense. Like, so many people have Amazon Prime because of, say, video, delivery. So, I mean, come on, with Twitch, like, what are you going to do? Not spend some Jeff Bezos money? A lot of people will do that. Now, the way this...
Man, Jeff Bezos will forever be the owner of Amazon. Say what you will, our boy Jeffy never dies in our hearts. It is what it is.
Had worked is Twitch's payout used to be $2.50 for most streamers and $3.50 for the larger ones on a 70-30 split in their contract, but then you'd have to factor in fees. Now, though, it's changing, and this is actually quite massive. So, it is based on the region the subscriber is from, adapted to a flat rate. What that means is, in the US, a Prime sub is now worth $2.25 instead of $2.50. So basically, it's taken a 10% hit. Now, a 10% hit to, say, 40% of the total subscriber base of your channel, that's actually going to sting a bit. but it does get worse. Look at the UK, $1.80. So, yep, UK viewers are not...
Well, they're on an island and the Queen is dead. They're not having a great time. And their prince or whoever currently is running the show there is pretty much known to be an very high-level enthusiast of a certain island. So, I mean, yeah, it's... Give them some slack, okay? Give them a little bit of that slack.
Not worth that much. And in Turkey, you're looking at 9 cents. So straight up here, we're getting a 10...
Yeah, well, I mean, Turkey things.
10% cut, best case, because of US, and then everyone else, being a bit less than that. That certainly is going to have a large impact. What I'll be very interested to see...
Okay, there's a super easy financial reason why all of this is, by the way, happening. So... it's a very simple thing that Americans don't know because they're Americans, but the rest of the world pretty much understands. If $10 for an American is maybe not that big of a deal, even if you live on minimum wage, but for the rest of the world, $10 can actually be quite a lot. And in the Twitch scenario, well, they're a streaming service. If they are streaming to a place like Turkey or, God forbid, Australia, their expenses, I believe, don't really change. Their expenses for providing the streaming service are probably around the same in America and Australia and all the other places, and it's expensive. So, there is this basic thing that you learn in many probably financial courses that you will ever take in a high school, which is optimal price versus how many people are actually buying the product. A super easy example: if you can sell your product for $10 and 100 people buy it, well, that's $1,000. But what if you can sell your product for $5 but 3,000 people buy it? You're selling it for less, true, but you're making more money now. Because 3,000 times 5 is a little bit more than 1,000 times 10. Yep. Pretty simple stuff.
Though, is streamers who are open with...
And that's the idea of regional pricing, essentially.
Of their financials, if they're actually willing to, to say how much this is changing them. I mean, what will this be compared to some of those changes with RevShare, as an example? That immediately does look quite concerning, though Dan Clancy broke it down and he basically said that people will receive, after the change to the fixed rates, it's less than a 5% difference in the vast majority of countries. But of course, the difference now is that 5% is going to Twitch. And well, 5% is actually quite a lot when this is happening to 1 million streamers. We'll have to see how this goes. I certainly can't wait to hear what streamers have got to say about this, because, I mean, man, if YouTube, put it this way, if YouTube was just changing up its business model all the time and YouTube wasn't profitable, I would be super, super worried. As it is right now, the CPMs are so bad in YouTube. I mean, at one point I was getting, it was $2.50. During January. And for January, I know January's low, but for January, that's really bad. That means most of our videos will, as an example, not be profitable.
True. After the new year, everything goes a little bit down. It's common.
That's, of course, why over on, our members on Belger.coast.io, doing sponsors and things like that, those, those together are more than that CPM. So I'm just imagining, if I had to deal with that level of just financial worry in running the business that people in Twitch have, that's, I mean, man, yeah, that is kind of rough. Have to see how it goes. Okay, the next thing then is also something I care about, and that is Halo. Love Halo, played it since Halo 2. So last week we found out that the Battle Royale game from Certain Affinity appears to have been cancelled.
Yep.
Certain Affinity are a support studio, but they've worked in the Halo franchise, I believe, since Halo 2. So perhaps they're now freed up to pursue other things within Halo. As for Halo Infinite, well, they're moving away from Infinite in a way, or at least they're getting ready for what the future holds. Your TLDR here is that they did the reveal of what's coming next after Season 5 ends. Of course, the broad context here is this game really stumbled out of the gate. We got all of the negative.
Everyone hated it when it stumbled out of the game. It was an absolute piss show. and still kind of is, even though they technically improved a lot. But we have talked about this previously, and I read the comments of people who actually play this game say, "Oh, the mode where you swing with a rope and stab people, kind of fun, but not a lot of people actually play it. It's just kind of there to do some of the, take a little bit of stress off maybe for some people between matches if they want to relax for a little bit. But it's not a popular thing. They add these modes, they're not really that popular, no one really cares about it, Not doing well.
Of the game being free to play. Of course, bearing in mind for most people who already have Game Pass anyway, the game would have been, free to play. The only difference now is it has a cash shop in it. So we had all of those downsides, and they didn't even get to have the upsides of that because they didn't have a content pipeline. Now, though, we do see the game's sort of resurgence. Earlier on, it was really tanking, right? Like, earlier last year, March and May, you have player numbers of like 6,500 in Steam, likely way more in console. What's interesting then is last September, its season really, really did well. We then had a bump for their December.
Isn't that just the start of the season, and isn't this like an event or something like that?
Release as well. We're looking at, between like 18,000 and like 10,000 players.
Yeah, and then it looks like it drops almost exactly the same thing, and now it's dropping below it? Kind of hard to tell, but... Okay. Yeah. Make a seasonal event, people get hyped, they check it out. Not good, leave. Wow. Not really a sign of greatness right there, honestly.
Players. Since then, it's basically hovering about, 7,000, which, to be honest, I think is fair.
I don't know about that. This actually says average players December 2023, almost 5k, and this is 4k. I don't know about that one, Chief.
Fairly good. After that, it has came down, but I think you do see here that when they do new content, the player base actually does respond. And in terms of the content, the quality of the execution, that stuff has been going up. What they're basically doing now is throwing seasons in the bin as a concept.
Well, yeah, people also respond when Diablo makes a new season, and then I do a lot of videos talking about how shit it is. That's what happens. And guess what? Most people leave.
Instead, what's coming next for Halo is a new map for Arena, a new operation. An operation is basically a 4 to 6 week-long themed battle pass. New Covenant features for Forge, new armor core, and a reset of shoulder armor to be applicable to any armor core. So, they're doing that, and they're killing seasons. And what they've basically...
Wow. I mean, look at these absolutely amazing cosmetics that probably, one dude is hyped about. Wow. I mean, this is a game changer. You know what? I'm buying Halo. What? You sold me.
What he said is they're going to keep on doing updates, but just in the form of continuing operations. Essentially, they want
Life
those
support.
6-week cycles.
Nice.
Now, that kind of thing can be really big for player retention. As an example, over in the land of World of Warcraft, which I'm, of course, quite familiar with given the other channel, that game has got 8-week content updates. And even looking into the numbers that we can pull from the API regarding Mythic Plus, looking at the things that they've been saying in earnings reports, yeah, this is the best player retention that World of Warcraft has had in any modern expansion. So that is, really good.
Yeah, because Dragonflight was noticeably better than their other expansions. People liked it a lot more.
Looking at this then, you can see the player...
And yes, add more content to the game more frequently. This magical thing happens. Players come back and check it out. I mean, what a crazy concept, right?
Base responds to those numbers. Maybe they're looking at these numbers and thinking, yeah, 6 weeks, let's just keep them engaged more often.
I mean, and let's be completely real here, okay? Graph go up, always good, almost, right? But the reality is, these are not the numbers they want to see. These are not the numbers that they wish it went back up to. These are not the numbers they want to keep. So, them adding more content gets people back, and they get tired really fast, and they leave. Yeah, making new content is going to work a little bit to retain some people for a while, but this is not the situation they want to be in. And this is why they're putting it on life support, because them making these new events, new expansions and whatnot, doesn't seem to work in well, even a month, in 2 months, it's back where it was, and it's all horrible. It's probably not even worth the development cost, maybe. Yeah, it's just super sad for Halo.
Often, which does seem to be good. Well, let's talk about the business model. It's actually, you could say, getting more consumer friendly. So during Season 5, these little operations they did that had 20 tiers, they were free for people to access while the event was live, but then they would go into the shop for purchase afterwards. You could then buy the pass for 500 credits. That would just unlock the Operation Pass forever, or you could spend 2,000 credits to get everything on the pass immediately. So in a way, that's like actually quite smart. It does give them more items in their store, so they're not throwing all of the work that it takes to make these operations in.
Wasn't there some kind of super negative part about that option that people talked about? I can't remember, but I feel that there was something really bad about this option also, but I can't remember it.
The bin, they'll actually earn from that going on. So instead of it just being,
well, it's a battle pass, so it's bad in general, but yeah.
Like an infinite content recycling conveyor belt, they're actually building sellable assets. Imagine, say, you really like Quest Watch. You thought that was a cool thing in Overwatch, but you just can't get those skins, and you just have to wait for them to maybe rotate into the store or maybe be a part of the bundle. Imagine if you could just buy the...
That just sounds like classic Blizzard FOMO, and they do it a lot.
...pass and play it. For a lot of people, that would be a pretty damn good proposition. And then that these are like free during their initial launch, assuming that the balancing is right there. This honestly looks like a really consumer-friendly and reasonable way to do things. So, in theory then, operations every 4 to 6 weeks, that should mean a faster content cadence, and ideally that will be a good thing for player retention. They say, though, that a big benefit here is that it frees up the Infinite development team from needing to release things as a part of the seasonal model, and potentially from Infinite altogether. So, here is what Rock Paper Shotgun was able to scoop here. They say they've got a dedicated team working on supporting Infinite and continuing to deliver going forward, but they have additional teams that are accelerating towards the future, working on brand new projects. So who knows? They have more things cooking, and while Halo Infinite is probably not the full vision of the next 10 years of Halo that they wanted it.
Yeah, it just in general seems like they're kind of giving up on Halo Infinite and putting it more or less on kind of life support because they don't see a good future for it, and that's it. Expected, honestly.
To be, given it really doesn't look like we're getting any more PvE content. Yeah, this seems to be a reasonable way forward. I hope they're able to salvage it. I want a...
What do you mean this is a reasonable way going forward? They're just gonna add a battle pass and add microtransactions to the game and do pretty much nothing other than that? No, that's just milking the audience that they have left.
World where Halo is big and exciting and actually played, because it just does have a special place for me. Next then, Payday and the strike team that they are forming.
Boy.
So, despite this being in the top 12 selling games of Steam in 2023 by total revenue, the game has not really landed as Starbreeze would have hoped. Payday 2 currently has 30,000 concurrent players on Steam, which is pretty damn impressive. But of course, Payday 2 is not really the game they want you to be playing. I'm sure they're happy you're playing it, but they want you to be playing the new shiny thing, Payday 3. So what's happened? Well, they had a very messy launch.
Well, how about you don't shine a third? How about that? I mean, it's still a third. Yeah, you polished it a little bit, and now it's slightly shiny. Doesn't mean that people want to touch it.
Then they had several DLC packs and updates, but by the admission of Starbreeze, they have not convinced...
That sounds horrible. They cook up a lackluster game that pretty much every Payday fan hates. The launch is abysmal, and the shining part is they added DLC. When your shining part is when your best part of the game is that it's horrible and you just added DLC that you probably have to pay for. Payday pay for DLC, nice. That's not good. That's really bad. No wonder Payday 3 is doing absolutely atrociously.
people who were soured by that rough first impression. So essentially, now that the holidays are over, they've gathered together and they're trying to make a plan to actually salvage and fix Payday 3. Because at the end of the day, think about the problem they have. What is the game that they've architected to be the future of Payday? It's Payday 3. What's the game that people are playing? Payday 2. Now, they could probably earn money by making DLC for Payday 2. But the thing is, in doing that, they'd be kind of robbing their future because they'd just be keeping people more entrenched in Payday 2. This is a really big problem that loads of developers have as they transition to a new version of their game.
Yeah, I can agree to this. No problem. Yeah, if you make a bad game, that is a problem for the developers. Absolutely true. Make bad game, have problems.
Look at Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, or as another example, look how modern historical Total War games are often being defeated by Medieval 2, which came out in like, what, 2007? Maybe 8? But ages ago. So Starbreeze made a big post saying that they put together a strike team of veteran developers across design, community, comms, and production with a focus on bringing Payday 3 up to par, and this is being framed as being separate to the regular update cycle for the game. There are some changes that are being worked on already, and to solicit specific requests, they have a big like feedback board where people, basically imagine all.
Dude, this is also a horrible thing that developers do. Your game comes out, unanimously hailed as absolute dog water. What is your response? Well, nothing. 3 months pass, and then you think you can start working on the fixes and making it better? Dude, even Blizzard does those things faster. Are you kidding me? Like, well, the game's already dead. And now you decide it's a good time to start fixing it? I'm sorry, that sounds as stupid as it can be. Maybe actually just forget Payday 3 exists and continue doing Payday 2. Sounds actually better at this point.
Almost like, upvoting and downvoting on Reddit, but it is, features that people want. And funnily enough, offline mode is at the very top of that list. Now, it's time for things to get really, really spicy, because at first glance, this looks really bad. Let's do a comparison of Steam numbers, where we see a game that came out in 2013, with 29,000 players right now, and at the same time, the game that came out September.
There is nothing you can say. Nothing in any way that you can try to vaguely hint at that makes these numbers look good. Okay? No, there's no chance. They are bad. They don't look bad. They are bad.
2023 has 351 players with a 24-hour peak of a staggering 537.
Nice.
Now that is absolutely brutal, and it does
make bad game, win bad prizes.
Look really, really, really bad. Indeed, this generated headlines like this one from PC Games N. Payday 3 has fewer than 250 players on Steam 4 months after launch. The thing is, though, that's really not the full story, because Payday 3 is on Game Pass. That opens it up to, what, 30 million subscribers?
No, that opens up at roughly no one. Dude, we have talked about this so many times. Starfield is one of the most played games on Game Pass. And as you can imagine, probably no one's actually playing it there. Yeah. Xbox is not really doing wonders with their Game Pass and most popular games. It's actually kind of insane. The only things that are probably doing there decent are COD. That would be legitimately one of my only guesses. Well, I don't know what other games there are. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but no. It being on Game Pass does not mean that these 30 million people are gonna play it. Probably not. Maybe they try, maybe it gets like a 1k boost off of that, but I find that so hard to believe that Game Pass saves it.
So there's all of that going on consoles, and a lot of the time, if people just want to play a certain vibe of game, and it's sitting there in Game Pass, yeah, why not boot it up? So we do not have numbers from Game Pass. But if we were to just think about Steam, the reasons here are extremely clear. Payday 2 has a decade of mods. It has a decade of official support. Payday 3 has no offline mode. It's only had 3 months of support. And, of course, let's just get to the very basic factor here. How do you sell a Payday 2 owner on Payday 3 when Payday 3 doesn't really resemble Payday 2 as much? You see, Payday 2, by the time it had got well, obviously mods, but loads of like the DLC packs and stuff. I don't want to say it like jumped the shark, but it was quite a lot, let's just say. Whereas Payday 3 did feel a lot more just sort of stripped back, you know, sort of just straight down the middle, than Payday 2 with all of its bells and whistles. And that just means people will stay with Payday 2. That being said, loads of people still own Payday 3. It is just one download and one click away from being played. So, just a bit of a reminder here, by Starbreeze's count, the unique players across all platforms far outstripped the peaks of both Payday 2 and 3. During launch weekend, Payday 3 had a peak concurrent users of...
There are some games that claw themselves back from the brink of extinction. There are a lot of games that have done it. But on the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of games that have done that, okay? There are, in essence, probably hundreds of games that have done it and gotten successful because of it, but those hundreds of games are going versus millions of other games that have not done that. So I'm not hopeful for Payday 3. I don't think it's happening.
Across all platforms of 218,000 and a peak of 1.35 million unique users within one day. And they say the Starbreeze Nebula has currently got 3.7 million registered users. So that's really why we can see them actually, you know, doing these strike teams. Look, an amount of churn is always going to happen, right? And churn is just one of those things. It's like the percentage of your customers, the percentage of your revenue that you lose every month. So the idea is, let's just say you're churning 5% a month, but you're maybe growing 10% a month. Well, that would be a pretty big growth rate. But anyway, you know, that's like how software as a service works. When, you know, the people who are running, you know, Slack or whatever, whenever they look at their analytics, they're all caring about their churn rate and all of those things. But as video games turns more into a sort of a live thing, you know, GaaS, games as a service, those same metrics actually become just as important. So really with a game like this, it's as if you do your launch and then your churn rate is like, you know, 90% or something that is really, really brutal. But a lot of those people still own the game. Ultimately, I absolutely wish them the best. I want more Payday. I'd played Payday since Payday 1. You know, I had so much fun playing that on Steam. Let's wish him well. Now, speaking of a game that's had issues transitioning from one
Saving the worst for last. Understandable.
version to another. Oh, hello, Destiny. Joe Blackburn, the game director, is basically leaving. We don't know where he's going next. And the way that they talked about him leaving, well, to be honest, it's a really good example of how to do this sort of thing right. A little bit of context, you may not have. A lot of people in the Destiny community basically like Joe. He was seen pretty well. Just seemed to be like, you know, sort of affable. People could get along with him, that he had a kind of good, pragmatic approach to community management. So, that was all good. Obviously, will have taken a few hits given the more recent dramas, the layoffs, and all of that stuff. But essentially, he made a post saying that they've now entered the stage of development with final shape. Of course, bear in mind, it's February now. This game was supposed to come out in February, but it was delayed. The phase they're at now is basically doing a big full playtest of the game. And this is a phase that essentially marks their transition to bug fixing.
Oh, just give up and let Microsoft take over. That's my honest take on this. They just give up and let Microsoft take over.
Optimization, polishing, and that kind of thing. So very much saying, hey, we're on schedule, we're doing our big test, then we're moving on to polishing it, and that is when he announced that he is actually going to be leaving. And him leaving is certainly interesting.
There's only so many times Destiny can nickel and dime their audience until everyone's just completely done with it. And even then, they still continue and try and nickel and dime the audience. It is the most egregious thing ever. Destiny is, unironically, the highest nickel and dime company that currently exists, probably. No one else tries to milk everything that they can from the player base as hard as Destiny.
Interesting. There are different ways we can look into this. I mean, one of the most obvious things is Bungie just had its big layoff. Now, I've certainly heard that morale at that studio has been in a fairly, rough position. Sort of trust and management also been in a fairly rough position. And this is another example of, somebody who clearly is important to one of these projects is gone. Of course, people think about, if there is sort of directorial games of musical chairs being played, that's generally bad vibes to people. The thing is, though, we've got absolutely no way of confirming what's going on. It could just be he's moving on to something else and, actually thinks it's time to try something different. At the end of the day, if you've been running a big live game like this for a long time, you will probably have a massive pent-up desire to not work on a live service game for a bit, so that you can just chill and make a video game instead of, what live service is, which is absolutely goddamn unrelenting. Now, the person who's replacing him, and it was very much framed as a passing of the torch, is Tyson Green, who has been at Bungie for over 20 years. His legacy touches Myth 2, Halo, so he's really been there for so many of the days of Bungie. And ultimately then, that's...
and now he's part of the downfall. Great.
That's just sort of where we are. We'll need to see if there are any more leaks to sort of know what's going on here. Now, what I'm going to do is, I think, pay some lips...
Oh, that's a little bit weak for the Destiny segment. Huh. Well, I guess all the bad things have already been said, but yeah, man, it is not looking good for any of these games. It looks really horrible. Halo, life support, Payday 3... developers think that 4 months later, now it's time to start working on the game, because turns out people don't like... What gave you that impression? 300 average players? Wow. And now Destiny, where there's so much bad things happening with it currently that I think Belliard had actually a tough time picking out the one thing that he wanted even to talk about. It is what it is. Twitch doing Twitch things... In general, most people don't care about this. Oh man, yeah, it's a rough time for a lot of things, huh?
Service to what many could see as a bit of a...
But at the same time, they made the situation themselves. You don't pity them, they chose this path.
Harebrained theory, but we'll see. We'll see. So, Lightfall. What was that? Where did that come from? Why did the tone just change like that? And why did it...
Oh, I thought the video was gonna end, huh? Okay.
Push so little forward in a meaningful way? Many people were just left with questions, and yes, I know, the veil memes, whatever, after that.
The Lightbound, as much as I understand it, is by far, absolutely, unquestionably, the worst thing that has happened to Destiny 2. It is the worst expansion on every metric possible. Lore people hate it, players hate it, everyone pretty much hates it because it's an absolute joke.
Felt quite weird. Then some people noticed, hang on a second, the start cinematic and the end cinematic just look like they took the one cinematic and sliced it in two. Is this literally just a filler expansion? That was all kind of suspicious, and basically, we don't literally know that this is filler, but it feels like filler. And if you're...
Oh, these were the pyramid ships that destroyed planets, and everyone was disappointed that, yeah, you can't do anything with them.
If you're going to do anything right, it should probably be the end of your really big arc. So I suppose, and maybe it's just the hopium huffer that exists within me, there's a bit of me that thinks, maybe they did Lightfall to buy some time, and maybe the final shape has actually got the time that it deserves. I do not know, I will certainly say.
I also don't know, but at this point in time, yeah, my predictions for the future of Destiny is... Well, I welcome on Microsoft overlords. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Do not pre-order until we know actually what it's like. That's the thing. You can be safe having some hopium as long as you don't pre-order based on it. And I suppose on that final...
Yep. That's the bye-bye. Anyway, that was Belliard news. Yeah, this is news, not gaming. Good stuff. He always finds the saddest things in gaming. It's a talent, boys. And I appreciate that talent a lot. Anyway, love this stuff. This was Quizzer saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.